Okay, hello student, and in this third video I will try to just instruct you guys about the data cleaning. In fact, I will use some of the data we already have it in the homework number 2 to just make sure that it's very close to what you guys had to do with. But anyway, remember in this demonstration I already manipulated the data, so some of the data they has been deleted, and to make sure that the result will be not fit to what you will see. So in case like you see the data and the result over here, it's not the answer. Okay, so first of all, in the in the second example, okay, in the second example of this class, so I require you guys to do for the calculate of the correlation between the variable to see about if the data have the problem of the data redundancies. So what did that mean? Over here in the slide number 27, and if you see it, as already mentioned here based on the number slide of 27, okay, we had the thing called redundant features, in which does demonstrate about information may be duplicated between one or more other attribute or variable. Okay, so for example, if you say for the purchase price of the product, right, and the amount of the tax rate paid, you know that they will be redundant completely. For example, if I demonstrate you here, for example, wait a second, and I will open for file. Okay, so if anyone still remember about the case when I'm talking over here, okay, when I'm talking over here about the case of the data redundancies, yeah, I will demonstrate it right up here. Okay, and we say about the features of the data redundancy. So we have, for example, two things: the purchase price, right? Purchase price of a product, and another thing that's really tax you have to pay for. Okay, so thinking about like you buy the first order like about $10, like about $12, like $13, $14, maybe like $17, $20, okay, 25, 50, or other things like that. Okay, over here I just generate about 7 items, and you know about the tax pay rate, right? For example, the tax rate, or you can say the sales tax. Okay, sales tax rate. Normally they will come with about the rates of about 10%. Alright. So in this case, okay, so in this case, you can see that the pay tax rate normally is going to be just the proportions of the purchase price. So this one, right? Normally the purchase price, and you time it for the pay tax rate. So actually it's for like $10 you pay for the item. You also have to pay for $1 for the tax, right? I will just put this one into the dollar sign, and if you create this one, right, and put them into dollar sign, this will be the two of them. So what's the problem over here? We can say in this case they can be called the redundant feature. For example, if I just try to generate for a correlation metric and the and also by the scatter plot, for example, if you create for the scatter plot, okay, you can see the relationship between them. For example, I say about the tax pay rates and also the purchase price. Okay, so I go to insert and then recommend for the chart, or you can go into the scatter, and you can easily see that they will be going this way. More easily, you can drop and you can add a trend line. Okay, so if they just go for linear, you can see that they all, maybe all the data point between over here, right? We can add in like the asset title, and you see over here, right, the tax pay and the purchase price, right? The purchase price, they are totally linear. That means they redundant in the feature, redundant in about the meaning, and that means they exactly test the same when they tell the meaning. Okay, so in this case, we can first of all, some way we can just demonstrate and just recognize the problem by just see about the scatter plot, or in another way, you can calculate the correlation coefficient. Okay, so if you can go into the correlation coefficient, if you remember about that, okay, they tell us a lot of things, including for coefficient. Okay, so they tell us a lot of problem and lots of information like how the two variables interact with each other. And I recommend you guys to go into the PowerPoint slide and also my video providing the extra credit, so you can take a look and see how the SVB has been already demonstrated in my FBA class. So you not really have to study for the whole chapters, but in this PowerPoint slide I already post, okay, you can see that I have demonstrated about the problem about the correlation. Okay, so if the people want to check about the correlation coefficient, we can go associate the relationship. This will be the formula, but anyway, you take a look and see like most of the case correlation coefficient just kind of vary between -1 and the +1, and if the correlation coefficient could be somewhere around 0, that means that's a very weak relationship. In the opposite side, if they go into the two extreme, that means -1, that means that's very strong negative relationship. That means one variable increase and one variable will decrease. Okay, another thing like the strong positive relationship, when the two variables have the correlation coefficient very close to +1, and that means one variable increase, the other variable increase very fast. Okay, let's come back into the demonstration over here. Okay, and let's say, so they use the correlation coefficient to check for the problem of the redundancy of the feature. So for example, over here, if I use the function correl, okay, I can go and check for the correlation between two variables. I just go down and drop for all the data. It's not the beginning, okay, because we don't count for the name of the variable. And the other one is the array 2. That should be all the data of the tax paid. Okay, and if you close the parentheses, you can see over here, okay, that is exactly 1. That means the two variables, they very strong correlated, and they can be the same like candidate of each other. Okay, so that's the theories about the correlation and how we can see the problem about the data. Now let's demonstrate it in our chapter. So I will use the this data. Remember one more time, don't use the result of this demonstration to just do for your homework, right? Because that is not true. This is just the kind of like fake data. I say fake data because I already manipulate the data. So it's not what you go and just use for. Okay, so to simplify for this example, okay, I have demonstrated and delete for most of the data. So now I just keep the data in the like in 2 years, okay, in 2010 and 2020, so 2011. This will be the estimate of the resident population of all the state of the United States. So we have from Alabama, Alaska, and also for the Wyoming, Wisconsin. That will be some of the number of the data over here, about 5150 of the other states. Of course, you will not count for all the United States, right? This will be the sum, and not the northeast only, or west only, or southwest. Okay, so they be totally separated. But I will use just over here just the data of all the states. Okay, so my first demonstration for this part, okay, when we're going to do this for this class will be, I require you guys to do what? Remember, so I require you to combine all the state data, okay, all the state data together. So to do that, first of all, you have to copy all the data, right? So I will copy the data of the population first, and I also need the data of the state GDP, okay, the GDP based on the state. Alright, and the very kind of old way to do that, I will just demonstrate you here by just sort the data, and then later you can use the VLOOKUP to just do the VLOOKUP for the data to just demonstrate. I think that you guys all be proficient in the VLOOKUP function of the Excel. Okay, so here I copy all the data of the name of the state and also for the population estimate for the 2 year. Okay, and I create for another worksheet. I will say like this one, combine data. Okay, and I paste this here. Why? Because of course at this point, right, I want to see about the state because I didn't have the name of the variable. Okay, and the two other would be the population of 2010 and 2011. So I would say population 2010. Okay, and I will go next, population of 2011. So if in case like you just drop it like that way, this could be automatically filled in. Alright, now I select for the data and I want to just spread it so it will be clear and the data will be fit into the width that's already demonstrated. Okay, now the other thing will be like I will try to sort this data, because when I sort the data only, okay, I just can make sure that all the state has been put into the order of alphabet, and when I combine the two data, that will be much better. Okay, so I go into data and then I go on sort. I just base this on what we're going to do. Okay, the state name, okay, from A to Z. This means in the order of the alphabet. And the data has been short from A and then C, right, and D and other thing ending with the W. That's look good. Okay. The second thing I need over here will be the state GDP, okay, from 2009 2015. But here I will just put in the 2010 and 2011 for demonstration. Okay, and I copy this data. Okay, you can do it, or you can use for all the freehand by the Control and Shift and the arrow into the right side. Okay, you select all the kind of like column and then Control Shift and you select for the rest by the arrow down. Okay, so I select for all the data over here, Control, and then over here I'm going just basis here. Okay, maybe this way. Why? Because I'm still want to have some space to see about the result, right? So before when we really want to just copy, actually I can copy directly this data into this side, right, to just form into a combined data. But however, I have to make sure that all the data has been sorted correctly. Okay, so about the number of the state, that's totally correct. But anyway, I have to sort it because I'm not sure that the data is being correctly. So I say state 2, and this one I want it to from A to Z2. Okay, so now all the data has been sorted by the state, and it looked like all the state, for example here Texas, that's Texas, right? Ohio. I recommend you guys to do several times like that to make sure that the data had no problem. Actually, it had no problem. Okay, so I will just copy this side and then paste them next into the population side. And now the data has been already, so I delete them. Okay, so I got the data over here. Of course, I can organize them into the format of the table like I always do, and they look very cool. Okay, I can also like try to just make all the things into like Times New Roman and make it color very clearly. Population and GDP. Remember about GDP, I want to try to push them into the dollar sign, or maybe just have the data too. Okay, so this will be the GDP and also for the population. Now the time for it to go directly after we merge the data, right, we have to recognize if we have the problem about the redundancy by just calculate the correlation coefficient between the state population and state GDP. Okay, and I will just do it by this way. I select for all the data. Okay, of course just the quantitative data because the state right now is not important anymore. And I go into data analysis. Okay, so in some case you will say like, oh, I don't have the data analysis bottom under the data the bottom over here. So I recommend you guys to go into file and then go into option you have to get it from the add-in. Okay, so you put it to add-in, and they will jump you into a new window, and under here you see the Excel add-in, and you click go. Alright, I think like up until this point, this will be what you see in your screen, and I ask you to just click in the analysis tool part and the solver add-in, and you click OK. Alright, so after you click OK, it will take like a while, about 1 minute, for the Excel to just get the add-in. Okay, and bear with me over here as available, so I don't have to do that anymore. Okay, and then it is one more time, right? After you go back into data and you see the data analysis bottom over here, you click on, and you can see about, scroll down about the correlation, and you click OK. So input ran, you select all the data this much, right, from B1 into this end, like E52, and you put label in the first round to just let it know that this is data, this data has the label, and you want to output ran, you may put it into the new worksheet. With me, it's okay for me to just keep it in the same worksheet, so I click OK. Alright, and now I have all the things I need. Okay, and this is very popular, right? You see that about the correlation metric. This will be what the people say, the correlation metric. Okay, and with this part, this will be your task to see like either any kind of problem between this data. For example, here I ask you about the GDP between some of the variable. I would say, like, for example, over here between the population of 2011 GDP, okay, with the GDP of 2010, with the population of the 2010, they will be very close to 1. And I would say, like, yeah, it looks like there's some kinds of redundant between the feature, right? Because that when the correlation coefficient between two variables is so close to +1, okay, approximate normally that's larger than 0.9 something, so you can say they will be redundant. Okay, redundant. Alright, this will be, you can say that should be redundant. Okay, that's your task to do it.